Hey guys, welcome to the Are You Listening podcast. We're doing things different today. We've got Gerard's testimony here for you to hear it. It's going to be amazing. First thing I want to mention is the brand. Guys, check it out. Stand Up Apparel now. You can find it at standupapparel.com. I also want to say like, comment, subscribe, please, guys. This is going to be an amazing episode, and we're really excited to have him. You guys already know he's in Florida. Say what's up to Gerard.
Hey, what's up, brother? How's it going? I'm excited for the show. I got to correct you on something. You messed it up. See, taking that lead from the start will do that. It's standupnowapparel.com. I let you take the ropes, and you messed it up. And are we live? I don't see a live button over here. Are you sure we're live?
Says we're live. Yeah, live minute 32, streaming on Rumble.
All right.
And YouTube.
I don't see it like we normally do, so I got my full faith in you on this, brother. I give you the full reign, so this is your thing. Go ahead.
I knew I messed that up too. As soon as I said it, I was like, "That's not it." God.
Yeah, I saw it.
And then I buckled.
It gave me a perfect opportunity to come back at you. And I love the shirt that you chose for the show today. We just look how our minds connect on. That was not planned, guys. That was not planned. I promise.
Totally unplanned.
I do like the green.
Yeah, I did call you before the show, but we did not talk about this.
Definitely not.
I'm really excited to hear your testimony today, dude.
I'm excited to share it, bro. I really am excited to share it.
How often do you tell people about it?
You know, it's come out over the last since I started the brand, but it's not something that I've told fully and stepped into until just recently on an experience I went to that I realized it was what I needed to do.
Okay. Well, I've got some hot button questions for you right off the back. You ready for these?
Let's do it. Let's go.
All right, we're going to find out a little bit about Gerard's past. I want to know your favorite song or CD.
CD. Oh, you know what? Coolio, Gangster's Paradise. I played that out when I was a kid. That was one of my first. I know all the words to that song. And then when I was younger, yeah, probably that'd be the one I'd go with.
You can sing it right now?
Oh, for sure.
Let's say the first word. I bet you I can get it too. I just got to know how it starts.
Oh, the first word. Oh,
that's the hardest part.
Man. The first word's the hardest part. I can always drop it on a chorus. You put me on the spot with that.
He called me out on the intro. I called him out on the lines.
I'm more of the chorus guy. But if it was playing, I could sing all of it. If it was playing, I could hop right in. If it was playing, I could hop right in.
Okay.
And
all right.
You don't want to hear me sing. I don't do karaoke. I will clean anybody out that's listening live on this. We don't. Want to hear me sing.
Did you have a go-to karaoke song?
I don't do karaoke.
You don't do karaoke?
Oh. I've never done it. No.
I don't do it. But if I were, it'd be All Star.
All Star? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. By Smash. By Uncle's.
One of those 90 bands.
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite color?
Favorite color?
Yeah.
Red.
Red? Oh, all right. This is a little awkward. Eagles cheerleaders or Cowboys?
I don't watch NFL football, but I would just naturally go with the Cowboys on that. I think.
I was hoping you were going to say you were a married man. Got him. Just kidding. If you would pick anyone throughout history to have one dinner with, who would it be?
Oh, wow. Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, I like it. Michael Jackson or Jesus Christ?
Oh, Jesus Christ, bro.
I know, that was a softball. It was leading us into our next subject. You know what I mean? I want to talk about faith, how you found it, and how you came about it. But I first want to know, can you talk to God?
Every day, all the time.
What was it like meeting him?
It's not, he met me. It was like that experience that, when it happens, He found me exactly where I needed to be. Let me say that. He put me exactly where I needed to be for me to find him. And for me to give I was in county jail facing 35 years in prison, headed to prison for, facing 35 years.
When do you remember the exact moment you were like, you found him?
No, it wasn't anything like that. It was more like a building relationship. It's like when you meet that perfect person and then you connect and there's something there. And then the relationship has to grow and trust and, things go in and out. It's more like that. It's a relationship. It's not like it wasn't like a all in type of thing for me.
Because some people have those like prophetic moments. I don't even know if I'm using that word right, where they're like, that was it. That was the moment I knew he was real. He was talking to me.
Well, he spoke to me, but that was at a later time. But that didn't know that it wasn't when I knew that he was real. But he did speak to me at some time, and that's really what shook me to the core. That was when I was in the hospital bed with cancer.
Whoa, we're covering a lot of topics very quickly. I'm gonna need to get you to slow down. No, just kidding. What did he say to you?
Trust in me. I've always had you. I've never let any harm come to you. You don't have cancer. Just follow the process and trust in me.
It's amazing that when you were at sometimes our lowest points, it grabs you, takes a hold of you. You can remember exactly how he spoke to you. That just is beautiful. And what he said, I think exemplifies what the church is all about and what God is all about, right? You're in his hands.
Yeah, it's the relationship that God wants. That's really what Jesus and God talk about, is a relationship with each and every one of us. I would take it outside of the church walls, because I wasn't in a church when I found him. I think he looks for people outside of those walls.
Yeah,
sometimes he finds them there.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes people find the Lord at their lowest moments. Some people find him as their kid. So I wanted to ask you, did you go to church when you were a child?
No, not at all. My mother was Jewish, and my stepfather was an atheist. My parents got divorced at a very early age, so we didn't have faith in the household. My mother was a good person, she always, but there was no real religion or faith or praying or anything like that.
Wow. Did you know kids that went to church? Had you ever thought about church as a child?
Yeah, so I went with my stepdad's mom. I would go for a couple of days to her house in the summer, and there would a vacation Bible school going on, and she was really involved with the church. So I would go to that, but it was just a thing I did because I was staying with my grandma for a few days. That was really all it ever was,
I think, my grandma actually kept us a little closer to church. I remember her telling my parents, you don't take these kids to church? It was a thing. You have to take these kids to church.
Yeah, it's good to have those people there. And maybe I would have went more. She wasn't in the same town as us, but she didn't live near us, so it wasn't like a thing, and it wasn't in our household at all.
So where did your grandmother live? I know you're from Florida, but
yeah, so it was my stepdad's mother, but she lived in another town in Florida, just a few counties over. I grew up in Tallahassee, and she lived in a small town called Chipley. Very, very small town.
Okay. Was there one that you liked over the other?
Well, I didn't live there with her. We lived in Chipley actually for 1 year. When I was in elementary school, we moved around. I probably went to six different elementary schools throughout my elementary. Yeah. It was a lot of a lot of things going on. But looking back, I never understood that. But what that was is God preparing me for where I would go in the future and how quickly I would have to adapt to certain situations and be around people I wasn't familiar with. Looking back, when I was younger, I used to always say, why is this happening to me? Or why this or why that? Now, where I sit at 38 years old, I don't have to ask why. I know exactly why I went through everything I did.
You mentioned going through what exactly you did. What was the town like that you grew up in, Tallahassee?
Oh, it was like a normal town. I grew up in Tallahassee all the way through. Like I said, we moved around. I lived in Chipley. I lived in Tallahassee. Just a normal town. It was. I think of Tallahassee as a town. They call it the capital. It's the capital of Florida, but it's more like a town, not a city. It's really very, very close knit. Believe it or not. And then we moved actually south. So when I was in, I would have been in high school. I was technically homeschooled at that time. We moved to a small county called Wakulla, and I lived there. It was like a fishing Gulf community, and that's where I lived my, through high school years, even though I didn't attend high school.
Do you ever wrestle an alligator in Florida?
No, I stay away from that.
Are you really from Florida? Come on.
Not everybody is an alligator. Not everybody's a Florida man like that. We're Florida bred in a different way, but not like that.
I love how I had friends in Virginia that were like, I'll wrestle an alligator, but they've never been to Florida or seen one before. The confidence,
Yeah. No, that's not something I want to mess with. There's a lot of things I have no fear over, but you just learn. You just leave them alone. They won't mess with you. Leave them alone.
Yeah. What about snapping turtle? You got a lot of those in Florida too, right?
Oh yeah, turtles. Yeah, but you pick those up. Turtles are no big deal. You see them. We were coming home the other day, and my wife, there's a turtle across the road. I had to stop and pick it up. Big turtle, So then my kids were like, "Oh, it doesn't get run over, Dad. Get it." So I'd stop, pull over.
Those snapping turtles will take a finger off.
You just got to know how to pick them up, man. There's a process with everything in life. That's the key. Figuring out the process.
I love that. Talking about the process. So, you didn't grow up. You weren't really around church. You found faith because you went to jail. And then the first time you spoke to God was when you had leukemia. We can get into
No,
that
it
stuff.
wasn't the first time I spoke to God. That was the first time God spoke to me.
Correct. My bad. Thank you for the correction. I want to ask, how's your faith today?
It's better than it's ever been.
Yeah. I heard you're dedicating this year to basically professing to him every single day and speaking to him every single morning, correct?
Correct. And to give him the ropes, do his will, not mine. A lot of times in my life, I got in the way of some things. So really just fully surrendering. And I think there's power in that. It's written in the scripture about that.
Yeah, sorry. I want to apologize ahead of time. There's a leaf blower outside of my room right now, so this is not good. But the reason I'm asking you is it seems like your faith today is more powerful than ever, I would say, like you had just repeated to me. We're both wearing the same shirt, God over everything. You have basically come up with a t-shirt company that professes the will of God and makes people put on a t-shirt and think godly things, I would say. I don't even want to fold this t-shirt wrong and put it on the ground. You know what I mean? I think it's amazing, and your faith is what led you to this. Can you tell us about how that came about?
Yeah, it was cool. It was God's purpose is what it was. Looking back, I mean, it was just me making a statement as a father. We were set to go on vacation for my daughter's birthday. 5 days before we're set to go, Disney says they're suing the state of Florida over the "Don't Say Gay" bill. You remember when that happened? It was like, yeah, you remember that? So we were set to go, and I was, annoyed that, for one, not just that they weren't calling boys boys or girls girls at the park anymore, and they're going to put, a transgender LGBT as the main character. I just felt like they're really pushing this agenda, and it wasn't how Disney was designed. But also, too, that they're suing us taxpayers and they don't pay tax. I was like, why are they doing this? Like, it's just wrong. So I jumped online to create a t-shirt, and it was God Made Man and Woman. I just, real quick, I never done this before. Rushordertees.com popped up, designed the shirt right there in their website. God Made Man and Woman. I'm sure you've seen the shirt.
Yep.
Designed it, and they emailed me back and said they wouldn't make the shirt.
Whoa. They wouldn't make it.
They wouldn't make it. They refused to make it. They said it was inappropriate.
Huh. Oh, can you shout them out one more time just so everybody's clear?
Yeah, it was rushordertees.com.
Don't order from there, guys. So who'd you go to instead?
I called somebody locally that I knew because I was in the automotive industry for many years down here in South Florida. Just called somebody locally and said, hey, I know you've kind of do some embroidery work for me before and things like that. Can you do this? He's like, yeah, I can do it. You got to order 24 shirts. I was like, well, how much is that going to cost me? It was like almost $500 what it was going to cost me.
Yeah. So you were just going to wear one t-shirt. You went ahead and bought 24 of them to wear one t-shirt to Disney World? Because
that's what I had to do to get it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't think you've ever told me that before. That's new information to me. That's really amazing.
Yeah. So I had to make my statement. I felt very strongly about that. I just feel strong. I know what truth is, and I see it being removed. And, I couldn't cancel the trip for my daughters, so I had to still go. My 4-year-old daughter would only understand that my dad never took me to Disney for my 5th birthday, and he took my sister, so I'm going to go into Disney World for a week. I'm going to spend way more money than $500,
Yeah.
And that, to me, this was money well spent. And it was just as a statement. Like, I literally was just to do it as a statement. And, my wife, I love her. She's a huge blessing in my life. She was like, don't ruin the family vacation. Please don't ruin the family. Don't get us thrown out the park. Don't make a scene. Please don't make a scene. She made me bring an extra shirt to change in case they approach me. And I never had to put that other shirt on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Was there a moment in time which you realized you had to do this? Was there something? I know you said Disney was suing the taxpayers. They were doing a lot of this, let's say trans stuff, right? Making people leads based on diversity versus actual achievements. Was there one particular thing that happened that you're like, now I have to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. There was one moment, during the park that day. I mean, hundreds of people stopped to get out of line to shake my hand, take my picture, give me a high five. I mean, it was the response was amazing from every age, demographic, worker, visitor, everybody. They love the shirt. But when we were leaving the park that night, it's 8:30 at night, exhausted from being at the park all day, I get a tap on my shoulder, and it's a veteran. And if you're watching this, I want you to reach out to me because I didn't get your name. But he tapped me on the shoulder and said, I love your shirt. Thanks for being strong enough to wear it and saying what needs to be said. And I noticed he had a Marine Corps hat on. I thanked him for his service. We shook hands, and then he went and got in his wheelchair. So he got out of his wheelchair to come shake my hand for wearing a shirt. And it hit me that we're in the biggest spiritual battle we're ever going to face. And if we don't stand up now and proclaim truth and use our God-given platform to do it, that these big media companies are using their platform to tell us otherwise, what kind of world are we living in? And I said, what kind of father am I, taking my kids to the most magical place on earth and they're living in it? It's being destroyed in front of our eyes. So right then I knew I had to create apparel that put God front and center, and for everybody to wear it and proclaim the truth, for other people to see it and stand up.
Wow. So that's the moment. So it wasn't even, you bought the t-shirts, the 24 t-shirts, not knowing you were going to make a t-shirt company.
Correct. Yeah, I just did it. I needed one.
Wow.
It was my only way to get one.
And then when you decided, wow. And then you decided that when that gentleman came up to you that you were going to make it a brand.
Yeah, exactly. Like I literally got home that night, and I've done some website design and things like that in the years in the past, dabbled in it a little bit. I actually took a course in prison. I got accepted. There was 18 kids, 18 people that were in prison under the age of 25 in the whole state of Florida that got accepted into this trial program. And it was about being an entrepreneur and creating web design. And I went there, and it was at a camp. And it was from that information that I learned there in prison, I knew how to build the website. So I literally bought the domain, went in, started designing the website on vacation, and came back and told the guy what I wanted to do. The one guy that helped me, he said, I'm too busy to help you. It sounds like you got a good hobby. But he connected me with, he taught me the ropes. He did the right thing. He guided me what I needed to do to get fully set up, and went on from there. God just showed me signs and opened up doors that only he could open.
I love it. Like you're halfway through vacation, that guy comes up to you, says, thank you. You make a brand. And then for the rest of the vacation, you're locked up in a room. You're creating a website.
No, it was the first day. It was the first day of the week. And I only did it at nighttime after we got back,
Okay.
So the rest of the week, I want to give my wife praise on this, because she was like, you know what? I'm going to wear one of these shirts too. Right. You got
Oh,
24 of
wow.
them. Right. So, and I brought enough to wear every day. I was going to wear one every day because we were like Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, like the whole gamut,
Yeah. And you had 24.
Yeah, exactly. So she started wearing them, and she would get so much praise at Epcot. All the moms, ladies started coming up to her. It was just
Whoa.
an amazing thing. So we saw it, we saw it, and we didn't know, when I envisioned this, I really envisioned it when it fully hit me what was going on, that this was going to be the biggest unifying brand that our nation has seen and that it needs right now. That's really the purpose, because I think that we're so many believers and everybody's afraid to share it. And this is giving people the courage to see that somebody else that's doing it. Hey, I need to do that too. And it's okay. It's okay to stand up and proclaim my faith and love for God and Jesus.
It's infectious. And you bring up such a good point. I've told you multiple times on this show that I've shown up at the gym, and people have approached me at the gym, either giving me like, hey, totally love it. Or one woman came up and had a 45-minute conversation with me because her husband, who doesn't believe the things that she does, is about to leave her. Did I ever tell you this?
No.
She came up to me, told me that her and her husband disagree, that, she might have to leave him or he might leave her. But wanted to just mention that she loves this t-shirt, wanted to know where she could get one. I gave her the website correctly.
Yeah.
And
We hope so.
Yeah. And so it's an attention grabber for sure. People are looking for a reason to be bold. And what's great is, a t-shirt is a great way to do it without saying much.
Exactly. And I love that you just shared that, because like you said, this woman that doesn't know you felt comfortable enough to come up to you and share with you, right?
Yeah.
Just because you're wearing something that says God. And that, what does that tell you? How many people are looking for somebody to connect to, that need somebody to listen to, and they don't go to church, or they don't have somebody they trust, or maybe, but just because when they see somebody with their faith, and if they love God that much that they'll show it, they're like, this is somebody that I can talk to. And how many people can we help? So all my shirts were designed to create a conversation, not a conflict, a conversation. That's how I designed all of them.
That's beautiful. I absolutely love it. I enjoy the shirts, guys. Not only do they represent a godly message, but they feel good too. I always like to say that because it really does. I've washed this now probably 10 times. Nothing's fading.
It won't. It'll hold up. I was always, and that's another thing too. Like I was always been so picky on clothes, like my whole life. And growing up, like we didn't have a lot of money. I was literally, my mom would have like $100 to buy school clothes. Like that was it. That's all you're getting, like, for everything. So I would only buy like a couple outfits, and I would just take really good care of them, because I was very picky on what I wore and how I took care of it. And I would go rake leaves or mow yards or do different things when I was young to have the money to buy the nicer clothes I wanted. And I'm so picky today, like my wife won't even buy me shoes or clothes. She's like, I won't, because you'll find something to, that's the one thing. She's like, it's not worth me buying. So when I designed a brand, I said, I want to make sure it's a shirt that's comfortable, breathe. Like I know the type of shirt, I feel like I know what the shirt that most people want. And it's stood true. So
Yeah, well, I'm picky too. So, and I absolutely love these things. They're
Yeah.
they're
No,
they're absolutely
it's
amazing. I wanted to. You brought up jail again, and you had mentioned earlier that's where you found it. You know, you found faith. You started talking to God. You started building that relationship.
yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you a couple questions regarding that, and feel
Yeah.
free. You know, I don't think you have to answer every single one, but I want to know what'd you do.
So I got arrested with tons of drugs, tons of drugs. You know, I moved out of the house when I was right at 15. I started kind of distancing myself. 16, I think my mom was like, "You're not moving out until you're technically 16." So even though I was like sleeping on friends' couches all through 15, I was like technically moved out at 16. I always had a job, but you can't work for 5.15 an hour and support yourself with a, you know, you just can't. So friends did drugs. We did drugs, smoke a little weed. Hey, instead of buying this, I'll buy this and, just dabble from there. And over the course of the next 4 years, it escalated, or 3.5 years, it escalated to ounces of cocaine and thousands of ecstasy pills. So, I always just knew somebody. I was just that guy. I was plugged in, and I idolized the wrong things. Let me say that culture at the time and things I idolized led me to that path and that road but looking back, when I thought I was on the top of the world, I was at my lowest point and didn't even know it. So yeah, I got caught trafficking, and it was armed trafficking. Cocaine and ecstasy were my charges that I was facing 35 years for.
How much time did you end up serving?
I ended up doing 51 months on a 5-year sentence. I was back and forth with an appeal process. I got it down from 35 to 10 years whenever the judge, usually when you take a plea deal, you give up your right to, what's the word I'm looking for?
To
To
bargain?
No, no, not to bargain, but to go back on appeal. Yeah, 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 yeah. When you
Oh,
take a plea
oh,
deal,
I
when you
see.
when you take a plea deal, you give up your right to appeal. That's a normal process. My case, it was hanging on and this is reason why I care so much about the laws of this land and the Constitution, because the Fourth Amendment says a legal search and seizure to protect you against that. So my case had a thing on hanging on the legal search and seizure, because the way I got caught, there's a technicality in the law called fruit of the poisonous tree. And so I was battling that in county jail for 11 months. And it was like, am I going to get 35 years, or am I going to beat this on appeal? On this case, on this thing. And then when the judge ruled that he wasn't going to grant it, but he allowed me the chance to appeal it because he felt like a higher court needed to look at it because there was such circumstantial evidence. He didn't want to be the one to cast down that ruling. So I ended up getting a 10-year sentence running consecutive, and I ended up doing 5 years.
That's amazing. I mean, they say like, prison, you only do 60% of your time. It seems like you did
No,
almost
in
all of
Florida,
it. So,
in Florida you do 85.
oh my,
Florida, in Florida you do 100. You do 85% of your time incarcerated, and then the other time that you earn on game time, you do it on probation. So
so
Florida
did
you
you
do
get it?
100%.
Did you get it? Wow. So did you get it reduced from a felony?
No, it's felony. No, no, first degree felony, first degree and second degree felony.
So can you vote?
Yeah, I just got it restored. That's why I feel so strongly about this, because
Whoa.
my rights were taken from me, so that I just got them restored. Matter of fact, the first election I was able to vote in was for Trump last time in 2020.
Wow. That's a big deal. A lot of people, when you get a felony, you lose a lot of rights, the right to vote, the right to own a gun. And Jerome last week brought up a good point that I agree with, that if you serve your time, the time you were asked to serve, you should have your voting rights restored and you should have your gun rights restored.
So I believe in the voting rights. I believe as soon as you get out, you should have your voting rights restored, no doubt. But the gun rights, I would give it a cool off time. I would, being in prison and knowing a lot of people that I met that did their time but weren't really fully acclimated or there. I don't think that you should give them their gun rights right away, firsthand experience. But after, 3 years or 5 years, something like that, it should be automatic. It shouldn't be an approval process. In Florida, it's 10 years, and then you have to follow an approval process, and that can be backlogged for years.
Well, usually you would go on probation anyways when you leave, right? Whether it's earlier on time, they're like, you're going to be on a year probation. Somebody's got to watch over you, right?
That's only on your sentence. If your sentence doesn't hold any probation, then you don't have to. But in
Oh,
Florida, if you get any game time, then they do give it to you.
okay. So maybe there's a probationary period for gun laws, let's just say, for you to own a gun after you're done serving your time. And then it just, like you'd said, just clicks off like 2, 3 years, good behavior, didn't get in
Yeah,
trouble,
yeah.
automatically back.
I would say 3 years, maybe 5, depending on the charge. I
I
would say it needs to be something like that.
I like that. I think it's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Did you make any friends in prison?
Yeah, you meet acquaintances. I met 2 of my best friends, actually. They were, in my wedding. One of them, best man, was my wedding. The other one was at my wedding. We
Wow.
still are, close today. I talk to them all the time. They're two of the best guys I know, just really A1 guys. Both of them named Eric.
That
Just
was
how it
really my
worked
next
out.
question, is if you were still with him, or still talk to them. So both their names are Eric. And what do you guys talk about nowadays?
Life, one of them's married with 2 kids. He's got a third one on the way with his beautiful wife. They come visit us and stay. My other buddy, he, is just going through the process of living, and I've been kind of helping him with getting more involved in the church community, finding his right timing, trusting in God that it's going to work out for him, because it's not easy. There's a lot of guys that get out of prison, and there's a lot of things that come at you, everybody, because you've been put away for a long time, and you don't know what the real world is like. In there, it's like, this is it. This is what you're doing. It's your routine. You don't have these outside circumstances. When you really are released, you have a lot of things come at you, and some guys can't handle it. Other ones can a little better, but they need guidance.
So you said one is currently you're trying to get into the church. Did the other one turn towards God as well?
But he is involved in the church.
Oh, okay.
He actually always kind of had a faith aspect, but he's trusting more and applying himself and putting him in places. And I respect him in a lot and admire him for that. Yeah, they both are very, very faith minded.
Okay, excellent.
But we didn't really talk much about that while we were in prison. It's kind of interesting how that works out.
Right. What did you guys talk about in prison?
We were just hanging out. One was on a work detail with me, and the other one, I was my workout buddy. So
What'd
just
you do
worked
for
out
work
light.
detail?
Had a few different things. At that one, I was with him. I was a janitor, actually. I was a janitor at the head office in prison. The head office, like the main DOC center, like they would take us out, bring us there, and come back. That was later on.
Isn't that how
it was-
Shawshank's Redemption kind of worked? Like, didn't he get access to the office?
Yeah.
You could have done a lot. That's so they trusted you. You got let out on good behavior.
Over time. That was like the last probably 8 months of the 51 before I went to work release.
That's a good job to get before you head into work release.
Well, it was just a job, man. It was just, you're going to do something. It's a lot better than cutting grass, or what's better? It's better than sweeping the sun off the sidewalk.
Oh yeah, I bet they just had for hours. Good luck, boys.
Yeah, that's it. It's Florida, August, sweep it off.
Wow, that's nuts. I've never heard that.
Yeah, sweep the sun off the sidewalk. If you go inside a prison yard, you'll see the grounds are very well manicured because they're all done by hand, either push mower or edging with your ID card. It's 4 inches.
Oh my! They just make it like a plastic, and you can just cut right through it. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, because if you can't have weapons or anything,
you're not supposed to.
Right. They of course. I do hear that you can get drugs easier in jail than you can in real life.
When I first got sentenced to prison, I was sentenced to a lifer camp. 85% of the prison was never leaving. And when I was there after 2 weeks, the camp was on lockdown because a guy got shot, and they found a pistol on the rec yard. That was my experience. I went into prison.
Whoa! So is that when you started to talk to God, or was that?
No, I started to talk to God when I was in the county jail, going through what I was going through. That's when I read the Bible for the first time. I opened it up and read it.
Tell me more about that.
No.
So you were in the county jail. Is this towards the end of your sentence or the beginning of it?
The beginning, when I was waiting, going through that process of what the judge was going to rule, and if I had a case or if I didn't have a case. Think I was, from on the street doing what I was doing to being locked up, no bond because I had a small violation of probation. So I was there. God did that in a purpose way because I could not leave. He could get my attention, and all those friends, all those things I had, they dissipate over time. They just
right.
That's how it worked.
Yeah, goodbye. You go to jail. They're just hoping you don't rat on them, and that's the end of that. So I wanted to ask you. So you said you picked up the Bible and you started reading it while you were in jail. Did you read the whole thing? Tell me about that experience. Actually, just the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I read the whole thing multiple times. I mean, you got 11 months, and there's no cable TV, and there's not much to do other than play cards and games. And then you did that, but you got a lot of time. You got a lot of time to think and reflect. And I dove into it, and I was like, wow, what got my attention when I was reading it is there's so many things in the Bible that, like, we know or use, or sayings we use every day. And we're like, that's in the Bible? We're like, wow, I've used that my whole life. Why do I not know more about this? And then you fall into some of the stories in the Old Testament, and then I could relate to some of those stories, and it just touched me. So I just wanted to seek God out. I felt, because I always question, like, what is this life about? What's this thing? And I didn't fall right into Christianity, accept it right from the start. When, a matter of fact, that camp, or that program I got selected to, was at a faith-based camp. And originally I signed up for that because I wanted to get, there's 2 faith-based camps in the state of Florida at that time. One was in Tallahassee. So I said, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to get off of this lifer camp where I was at. I'm going to sign up for this, and I can get home and I can get visitations. Like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. So I did that, and they sent me there. And then 3 days later, they kicked my bunk at 3:00 in the morning and shipped me to this other faith-based camp down in around Gainesville called Lottie Correctional. And that was where I did the program. But you actually had to attend some groups and programs. So I studied, meditation. I studied Buddhism. I read Scientology books. Like, I dove in the Quran a little bit. I really was like, what is this bigger meaning? Because everybody's like searching for this, and I did meditation. That actually was very helpful for me in looking at things from my past and letting them come up and address them properly. And then, when it came down to there is no God, I was like, that just didn't sit with me. And a lot of the things from Christianity to Buddhism actually tie in very closely. So,
well, one of the things that specifically that spiritual journey you were on, they tell you basically you are God. Anything that you do is set your mind to is achievable. And while, there are many truths to that, it's not foolproof.
Correct. I agree. The interesting thing I think about, I realize not to cut you off, but like all the other religions, they always point to Jesus, like they recognize him, like Buddha did, the Thich Nhat Hanh, all these Buddhist monks, Muhammad, but Jesus doesn't point to anybody but God himself. So,
I didn't know that. So you're saying in the Quran, they all point to Jesus and Buddha.
They acknowledge him as a prophet. There's a book by Thich Nhat Hanh. He was a Buddhist monk. It's called Living Buddha, Living Christ.
Wow.
They acknowledge him. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. That's something I didn't know. As you could tell, I'm not as well versed as you are. You practically have a theology major right there.
We're not theology major. I'm bad with certain things, but I do read the word. I believe it. I know some stuff, but I had the time to do it. So when everybody else was doing different things or different experiences, I was in a completely different realm. But like I said, God put me exactly where I needed to be.
So let me ask you, your 2 favorite, you said you had 2 favorite verses, but I want to know your favorite verse from the Bible.
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path.
What's the second one? That was very nice.
Isaiah 54, 17. This one I can't do as good, but it's no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And then it also says something about the speech. I always remember that, like, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. I'll read it. I'll read that one. It's because it's a strong one. It's from the Old Testament. So it's 54:17, and it's no weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is the vindication from me, declares the Lord.
Wow.
So yeah, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper goes into my faith and struggle with cancer and the battle I had there, and being incarcerated. That was a weapon, but it can sharpen you. You can allow something to sharpen you or to dull you. It depends on how you use it.
That's what I was going to ask you actually, is how did those verses, what do they mean to you? So you just said jail and leukemia. What about the first one?
Just both of them right there. I mean, to me, they go both. I mean, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. Like, don't be like, why is this happening to me? Oh, well, I think that it's because of this and this. No, I mean, it's because of God. Like I said, at the beginning of this, I know my why. I know why did I move to all those elementary schools? Why did my parents get divorced at 5 years old, and I didn't see my brothers until I was 18, or my dad again? I grew up without a father figure in the house. Why did these things happen to me? Because it made me seek out my Father in heaven. It made me adaptable for when I'm moving around to prison yard to prison yard to prison yard, how to handle myself as the new guy that nobody knows, because you're only a certain way. And at 125 pounds as a white boy at 19 years old, when you step off into prison,
But you were only 125 pounds?
Yeah, man. I only weigh 165 now. I only 165 now. I just carry it well. But you know,
Yeah. Well,
I
you
never
know,
worked out, and I had a gun on me in the streets back then. It wasn't a thing. You didn't have to fight. You know.
yeah, well, you're 40 pounds heavier than you once were. So I was a little shocked, but I guess like, you know, when you're
Well, it's probably
19,
like
you're not pumping weight.
130. You know, yeah, 125, 130 pounds. I was young. I was 19, man.
If
Yeah.
you guys haven't seen Gerard in real life, he's a pretty stocky guy. He's got some shoulders on him. I'll just say.
I
Uh,
wasn't always like that, man. A few years ago, when I was going through that cancer treatment, I was still
oh yeah.
130 pounds. I even got down to like 120, I think, one time, man. I was sick from that cancer.
So let's talk about that. Leukemia. Was having cancer hard?
There were definitely hard parts. Yeah, for
Of
sure.
course,
No
it's
doubt.
hard.
I mean, bro, I mean, but you know what? I remembered what God told me because, like, and just to backtrack on that. So, I was in the hospital bed, and I had when I was in work early. I was in prison technically when I got diagnosed with cancer.
Whoa.
I had yeah. So so I'd gone through the process. I went through. I was in Florida at 18 months left on your sentence, and you've been good and all that. You can apply for work release. So, and they can get approved as early as 18 months. I was down to my last 8 months. So I had been waiting for 10 months in prison, waiting to get accepted to work release. So I was like 8 months left to go, 9 months, something like that. And I finally get accepted. I'm like, yes, great. All right, I'm good to go. So now you're in prison, but you're in a smaller, low custody thing if you don't know familiar with it. And you can go out. You have 30 days to find a job. If you don't find a job in 30 days, you go back to prison. And they take 65% of the state takes 65% of your income, and you keep the other 35 for when you get out. That's how it works.
Man, that's messed up.
Prison's a business, man. That's why there's tons of people in it. Prison's
For
is a big
sure.
business of
I
people.
guess I didn't think that they take more out of your taxes while you're at work release.
No,
than
not your
they would.
taxes, your money. Your money. They take
Yeah.
65% of the income you earn, not your taxes. Your taxes are taxed like normal amount, and then the state of Florida takes 65%.
Oh, wow. On top of the taxes that were
On
already.
top of the tax. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, they're letting you go on work release, probably providing
But you
gas
know
for you
what?
to get to work.
Well, no, you can't drive. You can't drive. You got to ride a bike or catch a bus or walk. You can't drive. You have times you can only literally go to work and back. There's no back and forth you can get. And if you slip, you can go back to, they
Yeah.
take you back to prison. So anyway, I had just got there, and I was there probably about 3 weeks looking for a job. I hadn't really found a job yet, which I was kind of surprised. And I started feeling bad, and I went, and at the medical there is you go to the hospital. So it was a couple of days before Thanksgiving, and I went to the hospital, and they found out my spleen was about to rupture. And so they ran some tests on me. Turned out it was cancer and leukemia. And I remember laying in the hospital, like, God, like, why? Like, you put me through all of this, and now this. So now they're trying to bring my cancer counts down. They're giving me blood transfusions to thin my blood low enough for the medicine to even start to work. So I'm on my second blood transfusion. They got to give me one more. I was like, can I stop and use the restroom? Like, sure. So I got up to use the restroom. There's a guard outside my door in the hospital. I'm just in my room, and I come back to the bed. My body just starts shaking, like uncontrollably shaking. I can't stop it. Even the nurses are like, what the heck is going on? Like, we don't know what to do. And one of them leaves the room, and that's when I like calm my breath. The meditation that I learned came back to me. I was like, just breathe. And I started praying. And when I started to pray, that's when God spoke to me and told me that everything was going to be all right. Just breathe, that he's never let anything harm me. I don't have cancer. Just trust the process. So when I woke up, like, I just had that feeling. I knew, that was the case. So I never let that seed like take root. Like, I never said, oh, I have cancer. I was like, hey, I take a pill. I have to go through this. I didn't let it overcome me.
Wow. So he spoke to you basically saying, denying you of the sickness that they had basically applied to you. And just, I love how you said that. You said, I'm just going to take the pill for this thing I have and move on. That's really beautiful. It's powerful. And then what did you do to, while you were going through cancer treatment, what was that like? Did you have, what's it called?
I'm glad you asked that. So I had different form of leukemia with the blood type that I had, the blood cancer I had, leukemia, CML. They had oral by this time. It was oral medication treatment. So I was on one medication treatment, and they were like, if you can take this for 18 months, then you're good. This is the medicine for you. 80% of the people that get this type of cancer, this works. Um, and it right before my 18th month, like 16 months, my cells mutated. And so that means the cancer wasn't going to work. That medicine wasn't going to work. So I had to switch. Well, at this time, this was, 13, 14 years ago, medicines were different than they are now. So they put me on another medicine, and the side effects and all the stuff and the weight loss there were times where I couldn't even get out of bed, there were some scary moments. Actually, I was talking to my wife yesterday, and she was reminding me of a moment where, I was like scared, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to pull through this at this time, and I was able to, after she left for work that day, to like kind of pull myself together and, and not allow that pain to overtake me. But yeah, it was a tough process. They were almost going to give me a blood transfusion. The medicines weren't working. I went to multiple hospitals, Shands. I was scheduled to go to Moffitt, but I didn't have 100% match, so it was extremely risky. And so we got on this fourth medication, and we were like, let's just follow this process, and it ended up working good for me. But then that medicine actually started eating away at my insides. Yeah. Yeah. Over a prolonged time. And I'm going to say this too. So like doctors told me I was never going to have children. I was never going to be off cancer medicine, and I was going to have cancer for the rest of my life. So I have 2 beautiful, healthy children. I'm cancer free, and I haven't been on medicine in almost 4 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's all from God.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks. It's all from God. It's all the glory to him, man. I'm telling you, it's nothing I did. Because I was just a troubled young guy at 15 years old with no father figure that left home and fell into the street life and went to prison. So if he can do it for me,
got leukemia, came out, got married. You skipped over that part. Can we hear about when you got married?
Yeah, so I met my wife. So when I got diagnosed with cancer, and so let me go. All right, we'll talk about that. All right. I met my wife when I was in work release. I got a job working while I was going through the cancer treatment at a restaurant. I was a cook. She was a waitress. I got out of prison. We waited months. She was like very hesitant. She's a very, very good girl. I knew from the moment I saw her that was the woman I was supposed to marry. I knew it.
Oh, wow.
But so it was like, months went by, and then, we ended up dating, and it was like an instant thing. We moved in with each. I mean, we've been together ever since. It's coming up. Our wedding anniversary is next month, or in March. 11 years. We've been together like 14. It'll be 14 years.
So how long did you have the leukemia for? It seems like several years.
Yeah, 10 years. 10 years.
10 years. Whoa. Yeah. That is.
So I lived through everything with the cancer. It's one of those things that's probably why. And it was the conditioning that I needed. God knew exactly what I needed for everything, because it was like that. Like, even though you don't have it, like you don't let that take root in you, it's still like that thing, it's like you have cancer. I think this label that they want to put on you. I didn't let it affect my life, my productivity. There were some times where I would just go so hard though that I would just get sick. Like, you can ask my wife, like every couple of months, I would just get this. It would just happen. I'd be sick for a couple of days, 2-3 days. My job knew about it, but I was such a top performer, that they were like, it's okay. You're going to get better, come back and rest up. So, that happened that was like the cycle almost, I have really, really rough times where bad, migraines, vomit, just different stuff,
Yeah. Wow. 10 years. And then you did 5 in jail. So it's 15 years. That you've just been fighting. And also it seems like you've just got, I don't know if you guys know this. Gerard is a godly guy. Like, meeting you can just tell it flows from you. It's powerful. And I don't know if people have told you that, but it really is. And I remember telling you when I went to America Fest, like the only reason I was there is because of God. And I think that's because he's using you as a vessel to get the word out through the t-shirts and now the podcast. It's just beautiful to see. You had mentioned there was something I wanted to.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that. No one's ever said it quite like that before, but I do feel like God has called me and conditioned me for such a time as this, that we're in this big spiritual battle, that I can use my testimony. And it was just recently when I went to this summit experience that I went on just a few months ago. that really God revealed to me that I needed to own my testimony. Because a lot of times I used to be always ashamed of it, ashamed that I did the things that I did, that I sold drugs, that I was in prison. Because if you look at me, you would never know, hey, that guy went to prison.
No, I would
You would
have
never
no clue.
know.
You had to tell
Yeah,
me.
and I always kept it like that. I no tattoos, no thing. I was just very big on that. I never want anybody to judge me based on those things, because I feel like the world we live in, everybody wants to judge somebody or condemn them. So I appreciate you. I appreciate saying that. I think that God has called me for such a time as this to stand up and proclaim truth, so people can learn His love and seek Him out and have that relationship.
Uh-oh. Did you put the do not disturb mode on today? We're going to cut to me real quick. We lost you in one. Looks like we lost. He's going to call right back in, guys. We can still hear you, Gerard. So if you want to continue on what you were saying, feel free.
Yeah, I'm going to call back in real quick on that. Just give me just 1 second. I don't know. I had the do not disturb on, but for some reason it came through.
Sometimes things happen. We're getting him back right now, guys. So just hold your horses. There he is. That was fast. So you were saying that. So I was talking about how God's using you as a vessel. It's beautiful to see that. One, you've got the shirts. Now you got the podcast. It seems like this year you're dedicated on basically your testimony and his. What drove you to this point? I know you said you met somebody in the park, but I feel like there was something that basically has pushed you towards this. Is there a specific thing, or do you think it was the overall encompassing things you've had to go through?
I think it's everything that I went through has conditioned me for this moment. When I started the brand, I never knew it was going to lead to this. I did have that vision that it's going to be one of the biggest unifying movements that our nation has ever felt, at a time when it's needed. My wife has been telling me for years. Matter of fact, she's bought me like things to write a book. She's like, write a book, tell your story, write a book. It's going to help so many people. So she's been a big push on like, you got to start the podcast. So I give my wife the credit for that. But this podcast isn't just about me sharing my testimony. That's why we've having so many other people come on and share their testimony. Because when I read the Old Testament or the Bible, I read stories of people where God moved in their life in amazing, amazing ways. And I know and truly believe that God is doing that today all throughout America and the world. And there's so many testimonies that people need to hear. And if we only heard them, if we only had that book where people could just run to it and see, they would feel empowered, and they would know that God loves them, and that when they surrender and they commit and they put their faith and trust in God, and that doesn't mean you're going to walk blameless. None of those guys walked blameless. When Noah got out of the ark, he got drunk, so drunk he was naked. These guys were not like, yeah. I mean, I would too if I was stuck on a boat that long with my family. But it's just a fact. So, but people look at it and they think like, oh, well, if I'm that, I have to be holier than thou. And that's the opposite. God wants everyday normal people to love and submit and just really to grow the kingdom. And that's what I believe this is I think that's what I love to look at what Jesus talked about. I really focus on that. And, everybody wants to call out sin and point at the next person. But I remember when Jesus had, that woman there, and she had committed adultery, and he said, he without sin cast the first stone, and nobody was able to pick up a stone. So I think about what we're doing today when we're chastising people or calling them out, and, maybe we should do a little better.
That's one thing I've liked about your brand, and you shared with this with me early on in our relationship, is that you felt like saying FJB and saying specific things just lowered us versus actually speaking out in a godly way. That went back to your brand. Do you want to just share that with us for a moment?
Yeah, so that was a big part of me starting the apparel brand. Is at that time, I think almost 2 years ago, that's what everybody was walking around and wearing. As much as I agree with those things, I would not walk around with that because I don't want my children to look at that and see that. It's the same thing like somebody playing music in the parking lot that's playing curse words. We don't want our children to see that. So we need to use and shed a positive message, because I think a positive message will have a greater impact. I truly believe in energy. Energy is real. I've mentioned that before on the show. So if we share positivity will grow. And we're in such a point where they want to divide us and bring negativity and spew hate everywhere, that us that don't want to spread that need to spread positivity.
Yeah, I just imagine what somebody would say if they saw me wearing an FJB shirt. They'd probably like, yeah, man. Versus like the people that actually come up to me while I wear these shirts are very like, Where'd you get that, dude? Totally agree. It's a lot more serious. It's sending a positive message versus like a snarky mocking. Well, I think both are necessary to speak out against people that are trying to come, basically create, modern day slaves. I do like your higher road initiative pretty much is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's what we're called to do. I think that's what we're called to. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned all the stuff in the gym, because that's kind of how this, like I said, when I came back from the vacation, I was in the gym. I work out in the morning at 5 a.m. And I told some of the guys, and I was like, hey, I got some of these shirts. And so I sold those first 24 shirts. Guys were like, I want one. I want one of the originals, man. I'm going to hang this on the wall, and a funny story, I'll share this. So I was in the automotive industry for years and years and years. And the general manager at the store, when he's like, yeah, I'll buy one of those. Yeah, I definitely will. I'm buying one, So he goes home and he shows his daughter, and she's 16, his wife, and his daughter's like, Dad, you can't wear that outside. The God made man and woman, like, you can't wear that. Someone's going to say something, you're going to get into a fight. So he's like, it's not worth, okay, fine. He put it in his closet. He never wears it. Probably like 8 months goes by. I get a phone call. He's like, hey, my wife and my daughter, they're out of town. I wore the shirt. I went to Home Depot. I never had 3 people stop and tell me they love my shirt ever in my life.
Yeah, it's serious. These resonate with people. Yeah. And how many people do you think right now are wearing your t-shirts today?
Oh, thousands. I don't know. Thousands.
We got 2 right here.
Yeah, well, it's thousands. It's thousands. I don't. It's only going to grow. And let me say this too. So when I came back and I said, if I'm putting apparel with God's name front and center, putting it out there, right? I know I have to tithe 10% back off top. I'm not going to sell a single shirt. I'm not going to do that without tithing 10%. I really believe in the power of that. And I got that. Somebody taught me in work release, a guy named Ezzy Rawls. He was, he's got a powerful testimony. We're going to have him on, but he was a running back for Alabama, star running back, ended up facing years in prison. He's very successful now. He's out running gyms, all types of stuff. Very successful guy. But he taught me about the power of tithing. And I truly believe in that. There's real power when we give. It's like sometimes they pass an offering plate and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. Or like the homeless person comes up like, oh, I don't want to give him any money. That's not how we're supposed to give. We're supposed to just give free flowingly, not expecting anything in return, because we want to give and we want to bless back. And when we do it in that manner, God brings it back tenfold.
I would argue if you're making that face with the collection plate in your hand, you probably just shouldn't put anything in today.
A lot of people do. A lot of people get offended that churches do that.
Yeah,
they do.
I think that's another thing. Money corrupts everything. So I think that's one of the things I took away from the church that I did not like was the collection plate. One, because I don't come from money just like you. So I did want to ask you. So your website, we've got that pulled up, guys. I want everybody to go there. I want everybody to look at it. So let's just take a look. Where'd you find these models? I heard most models are lefties.
In the gym, bro. Those are gym
These
bros.
Are your gym bros?
Those are my original gym bros. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's my family. That's not gym bros there. That's my family.
That's his family. So that guy's a gym bro. I love it. Pray, baby.
No, he's a friend. He works for my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, he worked for him for a while. He does work for a gym now in Georgia. He's a great guy. He's been a big supporter from the start.
No, Adam?
He's not here. He lives in Texas, so he wasn't available for the photo shoot. This is all local people in South Florida.
That's cool. That's cool.
He'll be in the next photo shoot.
All right. Yeah, we got to get him in there.
He's giving me a hard time about it because Stephen Davis made the flyer on our last flyer that we posted. And he was like, how come he's not on there and I'm not? You weren't around, bro.
Didn't you know white people have to give up their positions of power for black people? Come on, man.
He is a great model, though. You got to give it to him. That guy is big, man. So when that guy wears shirt, people take notice. And
for sure.
He's got such an amazing heart. I tell him that's why God gave him such a big body, because his heart is so big.
Yeah. I mean, he's all. If you guys haven't seen him, he's like 7'6". He's huge.
He's huge.
And gentle as a giant.
Gentle as a giant. That's how it works.
Yeah. So after you got out of jail, and I'm sure while you were struggling with things, you got a job as a car salesman. And I just want to point this out. Car salesmen are not very trusted. It's not a very trusted industry. What pushed you in that direction?
So going back to when I was in the hospital diagnosed with cancer, when God spoke to me that time, when I woke up that next morning, there were flowers in my hospital room. And now I'm in jail. There's a guard outside my door. I asked the guy, I said, where'd these flowers come from? He said, I don't know. Some church brought them. He's coming in every hour, 6 hours to check my wristband, making sure I didn't disappear through the wall, you know? He's like, I don't know. Some church brought them. I'm like, a church? Nobody knows I'm here. So later on that day, I get a phone call and they're like, yeah, we heard about your story. Tom from the Work Release Center told us your story. I was like, Tom from the Work Release? They're like, yeah, she told us about the shoes. I was like, the shoes? I was like, oh, wow. So I say all that because when I was in Work Release, when I first got there, and this is the power of giving right here and the power of prayer. So when I first got to Work Release, I had only been there like 5 days, maybe a week. I had my dad, who I built a relationship while I was in prison, send me some shoes. Thought I was going to get a job working in a restaurant. There's a guy sitting in the day room. I don't know him. I could tell he's bothered. I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, man, I'm having a hard time. I was like, did you find a job? He's like, yeah, I got a job, but I don't have shoes. They won't let me go to work. If I don't get shoes in the next 3 days, I got to go back to prison. I was like, what size do you? Where would you get a job at? He's like, got a job, washing dishes. I'm like, what size do you wear? He's like, 9.5. I was like, I got a pair in my room. You can have them. And he's like, for real? And I was like, yeah, man, we'll work it out. So he takes the shoes and I don't think anything of it. Like 2 weeks go by. He hasn't earned a check yet. I get diagnosed with cancer. I'm in the hospital. So the Work Release Center had a church where the church would volunteer and come pick guys up and take them to their church and they could come back. He stood up at that church and told him that I was going through leukemia. I had just got diagnosed and asked him to pray for me. And he shared that story, how I gave him the shoes. He said, in 8 years in prison, when you're in prison, when someone gives you something, they want something back. And that was the first time that somebody had given something and not wanted anything in return from him. So he wanted them to pray for me. So he asked the church to pray. They started praying for me. That's where the flowers came from. That next day after that, when I found out about the story, the lady at the administration of the hospital, she said, we know you don't have insurance. We went ahead and ran your number and your information through this organization. They want to be named unknown. To this point, I still don't know who it is. And they said they're picking up all your hospital bills, also everything until you get out. It's $180,000 got wiped away. And then $180,000 gone. And then the doctor who was seeing me, Dr. Mabry from Tallahassee, he was an older guy. He had the practice. And he comes in with a younger Indian doctor. He said, hey, I want you to meet this doctor. He's going to be buying my practice out. He's going to be your doctor. I want him to take over the case. So he's a young guy, fresh out of college. He's probably in his upper 20s this time, maybe early 30s. So we're talking. He's, finding out a little bit about me. And he said, what's your plan? I said, my plan's to move to Texas. That's where my dad lives. I built a relationship with him. It's that. He said, well, look, you have a long road ahead of you. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I know you don't have insurance, but if you stay in this town, I will treat you for free and make sure you get the medicine you need for free for at least a year. So that's why I stayed in Tallahassee. And that's why I met my wife. I would have never met my wife had I have not stayed in Tallahassee.
And that connects to the job at the car shop because
So when I was leaving the church, sorry, thank you. So whenever I was leaving the church, I got out of the hospital. I went to that church and I wanted to thank them for praying for me. So when I went there, I said, hey, guys, I stood up on the stage and I said, I want to thank everybody, for praying for me. I believe in the power of prayer. This is what's happening since then. Thank you very much. And I shared all those amazing things that's happened. When I was leaving that day, a guy came up to me and said, have you found a job? I said, no. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I'm going to try to find a job. They gave me 30 more days before I go back to prison. And he said, have you ever thought about selling cars? I said, never in my life. And he was like, what type of work have you done? I told him what I had done, administrative stuff, worked in restaurants. He said, come see me. I got a used car lot. I think I can use you. So I got the job there. He hired me. I remember. And so he taught me how to sell cars, little used lot on the south side of Tallahassee, selling little $3,000 to $5,000, $8,000 cars, little beater cars, and worked through and did that for a while while I was in Work Release through the tax season till I got healthy, till I got through the first hardest stage of the cancer treatment. He opened that up to me. And then after I got out of prison, he ended up hiring me back. And he wanted to make sure that I was going to get off on the right foot, do the right things. Because a lot of guys go back. 85% of the people that go to prison come back within the first 3 years.
Right.
So you want to make sure I was good.
It's almost easier to be in prison than it is to be in normal life afterwards because it's tough to get a job. Tough
for a lot of guys.
Get your own place. So they're just like, hey, I'll just commit another crime and go right back.
For sure. No, it's a lot of that. But so anyway, that's how I got into it. And then when I moved to South Florida, I walked into a new car dealership and I said, hey, I've never done new cars. I've done this. And they hired me. And quickly within the first 6 months, I became the best salesman they had. Matter of fact, the store had to they've been around for 60 something years, family owned dealership, one of the few left in the country. And they had to put new goals that they've never had before because I was just crushing them.
Okay.
That's how I am.
We've got some fun questions for the car salesman.
Real
all right?
quick, before we talk about the sales, I want to say about the character aspect, because I know I got long-winded on that and I apologize. But my reviews on that are spotless. Matter of fact, I've had people fly in from North Dakota or drive up from Key West just because they read reviews about how honest I was and how I treated people. And they didn't even know what kind of car they wanted to buy. They just want to know that they knew they were going to buy from me.
That was actually one of my questions I was going to ask is car salesmen are known to be one of the least trusted industries. You ever lied to anybody?
No, I don't lie.
Not even your kids?
Oh, your kids are different. I don't lie. You mishold the truth.
Yeah. You tell them about Santa Claus until they're 11 or 12 and figure it out for themselves.
I'm actually debating on
All right. Hey, so American cars or German cars?
American.
Okay. Then I've got GMC, Ford, or
GMC.
Jeep.
GMC.
Okay. All right. Truck or a sedan that comes with the 2008 Cowboys cheerleader calendar?
Truck.
Okay. Favorite car to sell?
I love the Yukon Denali, man. I love them. They're beautiful cars.
Denali was one of my favorite cars growing up. This guy in my neighborhood had a Denali, all white rims. It was raised up, and he would drive it around Davis Ford all the time. And I absolutely was in love with it. I was like, that's a car I want to grow up.
Yeah.
And you sell them. What if you sold me my first Denali?
It might just be the case.
Hey, Gerard, I want to say this is an amazing interview. I had so much fun doing it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. I know you're usually the one here pushing all the big buttons and doing all the big interviews, but I just want to thank you so much for the opportunity.
No problem, man. I appreciate all the questions. I think it went really good. I appreciate you doing it for sure.
And God definitely messed up the top.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I know that God put us together for a reason, man. So this is just the beginning of a beautiful journey. So I'm glad to share this and put it out there at the very beginning of it.
So can you do me a favor? Tell everybody where they can find us, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah. So YouTube, Rumble, Are You Listening? You can do at Stand Up Now 2022 on all socials and platforms. And the merch is on standupnowapparel.com.
See you guys later.
Thanks for listening, guys. Have a great day.